I have a question for the rest of America. Does anyone even care about Nebraska? Does anyone even care?
What about Nebraska? What about Nebraska? Does anyone not care about Nebraska? Why should they? Coming from somebody who lives in Omaha, Nebraska, us blue voters, we did our part, okay? Including Lincoln. And what's so funny is I keep seeing all these farmers showing up on my For You page now because I live in Nebraska and that's all I'm going to see. What did y'all think was going to happen?
Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren
and I'm Maureen.
Right, so in today's episode guys, we're going to be reacting to a video of a palm colored woman who thought it twice to come out on TikTok and ask people this question. That is after Nebraska effed around and found out, she thought it twice to come on TikTok and ask everybody if they cared about Nebraska. Right, and in today's video we're going to be seeing the response of both black and white Americans to this question. And what I really love about this Fafo season is they are being held to account, you know, even in situations where they come out to the internet and expect sympathy, they are being read victims, or they're being go on. They're being read to the last T so that they can know where they themselves are effed around. Right, guys, we don't want to talk a lot. Let's just watch this video and then we come back and talk about it. Kindly consider subscribing if it's your first time here, and also let us know your thoughts and opinion on the comment section, right? Let's watch and then we come back.
Y'all are the ones that voted for this orange guy. I do not feel sorry for y'all because there are going to be consequences for your actions. And the fact that you thought you wouldn't be affected by this. So I'm going to hold y'all hand when I tell y'all this. Get y'all friends, get off them phones and get in the field, okay? Pun intended. Y'all's racism actually overpowered y'all livelihood. And now y'all are seeing what's happening in real time. I don't feel sorry for y'all. So many of y'all are so upset that y'all workers aren't showing up to work. Oh, that's really unfortunate, love. But to my Omaha Nebraskans and my Lincoln Nebraskans, I stand with y'all. We knew this would happen and we tried our best. And to the rest of you, I don't wish you good luck. Good riddance. And I don't even talk about politics, but I'm gonna get this video to a minute because I just know someone's gonna be in my comments screaming and yelling till they red in the face.
I have a question for the rest of America. Does anyone even care about Nebraska? Does anyone even care?
Do you care about Nebraska? Because I have a feeling you voted for this. I mean, Nebraskans don't even care about Nebraska. Let me ask you another question. Who exactly did you think were going to work in the fields and in the farms after all of the regular day laborers, you know, people of color, are no longer there anymore? Who did you think was going to do it? Did you think that there was just this army of white workers ready to get into those farms and pick all the vegetables? Now people like you who voted for this to happen are upset that something's affecting you, because what people like you tend to really vote for, it's not the economy. It's because you want to express racism and bigotry, and he was the only way that you could do that. But now it's affecting you. All those farms are disappearing, including that 300-year-old farm. And you want to know why nobody's upset at that? It's because you guys did it to yourself. You'd rather vote to have your racism easily spread across the United States instead of thinking about yourself, because you always vote against your own interest, don't you? And isn't it just like you? You voted to hurt other people, but now when it's starting to hurt you, you want us to feel sympathetic for you.
You need to admit that you voted the way you did because you thought it would affect other people in a negative way. You weren't really listening to what he was saying, because he said this from the start. If you have a farm, if you are a farmer, you had to know that a lot of your workforce were undocumented migrants. You had to know that. I don't see what other result would have came out of this if this is what you wanted.
I have a question for the rest of America. Does anyone even care about Nebraska?
Hey girl, as a Texan from a cattle ranching family now living in Florida, we did. We cared about y'all so much. That's why we told y'all for so long. Gosh, I've been screaming it for, I don't know, since at least, I don't know, the Tea Party. 08, 09? We broke it down. Project 2025. Over and over. Y'all didn't listen. So now my only responses is first, bless your fucking heart. Second of all, this is what you voted for. So They're eating the cats. They're eating the dogs.
So the big question on TikTok right now is, does anybody care about Nebraska? Super quick. Is this y'all? Don't piss me off. Don't piss me off this early. So first of all, no one gives a fuck that that's happening to you. You deserve it. Second of all, next time that there is an election, let's not be so simple-minded. Especially when the man that you're voting for literally fucking told you he would cut federal funding for your farms. He would deport all of your workers, and now you want us to give a fuck? I'm sorry, bitch. He literally said it in his campaign. Like, do your fucking homework. The worst part, educated individuals like myself voted for you, but guess what? Your vote counts just as much as mine, even though you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Does anybody care about Nebraska? That's the question that's going around TikTok right now, and to that, I respond with two questions. Did Nebraska care about anybody else? And does Nebraska care about Nebraska? Because, you see, God helps those who help themselves. And when you Nebraskans walked into the voting booth and overwhelmingly voted for Donald Trump to be president, and now you're feeling the effects of that, this isn't I told you so. This is an FAFO. And I know there are Nebraskans out there that voted for Kamala Harris and did not fall into the trap of Donald Trump. Unfortunately, there were not enough of you. And now the rumors, and I'm having a hard time substantiating some of this, but the vibe that's going around is that Nebraska basically looks to be bankrupt in about 6 months because of the undocumented migrants that are being deported, or just the fact that undocumented migrants make up a large portion of their state and workforce on the farms, and they're not showing up to work because they're now afraid they're going to be deported. So Nebraskans, especially farmers in Nebraska, did you think any further than the front of your face?
What's going on, y'all? My topic for today is, yes, we care about Nebraska. Before I start, it's just my opinion. If you don't like what I'm about to say, there's no need for you to get mad at me and try to cancel me. But y'all seen the videos of people asking, do y'all care about Nebraska? You know, Nebraska is on the edge of being bankrupt, you know, because their farm industry is heavily affected now that ICE has been going after their workers, you know. So, to answer the question, yes, people care about Nebraska. People say mean and hurtful things about Nebraska. Those same people care. Here's where it comes down to. In order for us to unite, I feel like it's going to take, in this instance, it's going to take the citizens of Nebraska to dig deep and answer one basic question. Why did you vote the way you did? And this question has to be answered in order for us to go forward. We need to understand the whys. What led people down this road? That way we can be aware and they will not go down this road again. What were the key words that were said to you? Were the words like, we're gonna get rid of woke? Were there that? Was it, we're going to protect American jobs? What was the slogan that was said to you that said, yep, that's what Nebraska needs? When they said they're going after the migrants, the illegal migrants, and if you all are farmers, then you know who worked for you. You know. I feel like there needs to be some admittance. So, like I said, people aren't hating Nebraska. And that's just one instance, because there's many states that this could fit into that category, but people aren't hateful to Nebraskans. People want to love on Nebraskans. You know what I'm saying? But Nebraskans have to answer those questions first. You have to at least answer those questions to yourself. Why did you vote for them? You got to answer that for yourself, so you won't be tricked again. Thank you for your time. Out.
I cannot believe that my family farm and my home state of Nebraska are going to be flat broke within 6 months. I cannot believe this is happening. I cannot believe that the undocumented workers who basically drive our entire agricultural economy just got up and left. They just left. Why? Because we voted for Trump? Because we voted to have them torn from their homes in the middle of the night by ICE, because we wanted to see their families ripped apart because we don't like brown people, so they just abandoned us in our hour of need before we were able to like replace them with, I don't know, like white teenagers or something like that, you know, like before we were able to identify and employ an entire demographic of people who's willing to make less than minimum wage for terrible working conditions. I can't believe this is happening. If only somebody had told us that this was a possibility. If only somebody like Kamala Harris or Tim Walz or Bernie Sanders or any of the liberal politicians, Jasmine Crockett, Gavin Newsom from California, or, you know, almost every major media outlet, or every economist in the nation, or all of the liberals. If only somebody had told us that undocumented workers are absolutely vital to the existence of our agricultural industry. If only somebody had said that 1,000 times, day after fucking day. If only somebody had said, hey, they're not replaceable because white American teenagers do not want to work for slave labor wages in the fields in the hot sun. They are not going to be replaceable. If only someone had said that repeatedly through a megaphone for literally a year. If only somebody had said that using your vote as a stick with which to beat undocumented minorities might be a bad idea. Because we've come to rely on them, haven't we? Yeah. If only someone had said that. Maybe someone would give a shit, you know? Good luck, though.
I fear we have to talk about that Does Anybody Care About Nebraska video. When I recorded that video, it was just a random thought I had while I was driving around. It wasn't in any sort of political reference to anything. It was just a random thought of, I wonder if anyone's like thinking about Nebraska. And their response was overwhelmingly, no, not at all. Not for a damn second. Which, fair enough, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere and there's not a lot going on here. I think what I didn't expect and what became like very surprising to me, because I'm not a political content creator, the comments got very, very political and hateful. And I just want to make one thing extremely clear. This is not a Trump hat. Just because it's red does not mean it's a Trump hat. This is a Nebraska Cornhuskers hat. It's for our football team and sports. Yay, go Nebraska. I do not support the whole like Trump, MAGA, whatever's happening there, and it is very concerning. It is, but that's not something that I talk about online. So just making it perfectly clear, I do not endorse that. I do not support that, okay? I think it's a divisive system, two feathers of the same bird, and it wants us to be divisive and hateful.
I did a video and then I had to mute it because I misspoke. Gosh, I hate when you do that, but let's talk about why Nebraska's broke. So, Governor Pillen, who is our current governor, in 2023 shoved through a tax cut to the wealthy and the corporations in the state of Nebraska, which is now leading to a significant revenue shortfall for the state, $433 million annually. But let's talk about the little bit of history on Pillen. So Pete Ricketts was the previous governor. He's now our state senator. But Pete Ricketts is a billionaire. His brother owns Ameritrade, also a billionaire. So a billionaire family with lots of money to run campaigns. And that's why he was so successful. But then he endorsed Pillen and sent money to Pillen's campaign. But Pillen's also wealthy. So what they did with this tax cut was they said they could make up the shortfalls from it using the C-19 money that was given to the state, which they did for a couple years, but now that's gone. And so now the state is facing shortages, 433 million to be exact annually. The average person in Nebraska only makes $74,000, so an individual only makes about half of that. It is not a very high salary game here. And therefore, we're not going to make up that shortfall in our salary income taxes. So what they're doing is they're trying to up our property values. So to give you an example, I'll use my own home. I bought the home in 2017. It's a very small home, 1,000 square feet. It had $1,400 annually for taxes for the property. And now it has $2,800. So that means that they've doubled our property values taxation, which has led to a lot of Nebraskans being very unhappy. But why don't Democrats be more successful here? Well, the issue is they don't have the money for the campaigns. So the ads are in our face constantly, and rural people don't quite understand what they're voting for, because just like our current president, it's full of lies and twisted information. And they usually attack the other side. They find even the smallest little thing and capitalize on it and say the other person's bad for this reason. But what is also a problem is that we can't retain people after they graduate from college. There's not a significant salary level to keep them in the state, so they leave and go elsewhere. We're not keeping them around. And that shortfall is just getting worse and worse because it's an aging population. So those of us that stay here for the most part are older, or they're young people with no money that can't leave the state. So that shortage is going to just keep getting worse and worse. They have promised tax cuts to the property values, but they have yet done anything. They've said it for 3 years now, and they still haven't done anything about it. So that $3 billion tax cut to the corporations and the wealthy is the same playbook that our president wants to do. So our nation's going to be facing the same kind of shortfall. And this means that they have to cut programs to the poor and the weak and the sick and the old. And that's what's happening in Nebraska. It's going to happen at the national level, and we have that to look forward to at the national level. But that's why Nebraska's going broke.
As someone who was born and raised in Nebraska and who works in public policy, nonprofit sector in Nebraska, I can provide a little bit of context as to what's going on with the state, with the budget, why everybody's freaking out. So in our state constitution, there's a provision that says you cannot go into a deficit. You have to have a balanced budget. That has never really been a problem. We've always had a budget surplus. Even 3 to 4 years ago, we had a budget surplus of like $1 billion. And now, under Pillen, we have completely blown through all that extra money, and there's a $432 million deficit of the budget. The other issue that's happening in Nebraska right now, well, there's two really, is we've essentially run the migrant workforce out of the state. It's a red state. We've had ICE raids in Nebraska before at meat packing plants, farms, etc. It's nothing really new to the state. But the other factor that's going into that with the lost revenue is that property taxes are outrageous. Nebraska is one of the highest tax states in the country. I just recently left and went to a blue state. I thought for sure taxes were going to be worse. I'm actually taking home more money now than I was in Nebraska. So that's another thing. People have promised tax relief. We've robbed Peter to pay Paul, and now it's time to pay the bill, and there's no money left. So this legislature session might be really long. There's going to be a lot of cuts. I'm not sure what will happen. But if you want to stay up to date on what's happening in Nebraska, I highly suggest the Nebraska Examiner or the Flatwater Free Press.
So guys, welcome back. Let us know what you think about the episode we just played you, yeah? You know, the funny thing is that it has not taken that much long for people to get exactly what they voted for, yeah?
Yeah, because right now we are in month 3 since Donald Trump was sworn in.
Right. And people are now finding out what they voted for. I feel like they didn't internalize exactly what it meant and how it was gonna affect them. Nebraska is a red state, yeah? And I feel like for the most part when people vote for a presidential candidate, especially
it's because they're expecting some favors from the party they are putting in parliament and in the government.
Right. And a speaker here, there's a brother who asked Nebraskans a question, and if there's any watching us, we'd really like to hear an answer to that question. Somebody said, if you want all of us to unite, yeah, uniting is not a problem, we can do that, but first we need you to answer this question: why exactly did you vote for Donald Trump? If you can answer that, then maybe we can move forward. And I feel like that is very interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like deep down, even if nobody is openly saying it, because right now, we know, especially the Trumpers, they're seeking help from other communities. Right now, they cannot answer that question, but everybody knows the answer to that question, why they voted Trump. And, you know, there is a sister here who was talking, and she said something very interesting, right? She was asking, why should other people care about Nebraska? While Nebraska, when they were making the decisions they made, they only cared about nobody else but themselves. And she further went on to say that racism was the biggest motivator when they were making their decision. And now that racism is taking away their livelihood, just like racism took away their Medicare, why are they complaining right now? Just because their livelihood has been affected?
It's because it's affecting them individually. And guys, you know, another thing I was just thinking to myself, so I don't know if this is actually true, so I'm not going to assume, yeah, but I was thinking to myself, yeah, it feels like the farms where you find a lot of immigrants working, I do imagine that this is hard labor, and there's no palm-colored person who might want to participate in hard labor, especially in their nature, you know.
Yeah, especially in the scorching sun.
So I know they didn't expect, like the owners of the farms when they were voting, they didn't expect that after the immigrants have been taken away, their farms would be remaining like that without workmanship, you know. And I'm like, there's a big population of palm-colored people in America, especially even in Nebraska, yeah? Why don't you go and find those palm-colored people who need jobs to come work in your farms?
Because they know... This is just my assumption, my opinion, because they know those palm-colored people wouldn't work half as hard as immigrants or any other group of people. And then, you know, I was just thinking that deep down, these farmers must have known that if they voted the way they did, most of their workers would have been shipped away.
Did they even think that far?
But they still didn't care. And I tend to think maybe they were paying these people little to nothing, or some of them had debts with the immigrant workers, you know, the situation where your employee works and you don't pay them or you don't pay them in time, so debts accrue. So that might have been the only reason why some of them wanted the immigrants gone.
But I feel like that would have to be a big population of the farmers. Maybe probably it's just the racism thing, and they probably thought that the Trump administration would have favored them, you know. They didn't think it would affect them the way it did.
And you know, the funniest thing is, just like a lot of black people on TikTok have said, that especially after the election ended and the results came out, because a lot of palm-colored people have come to the internet claiming they didn't vote for Trump, so you don't even see the ones that voted for Trump. You'd be even forgiven for
all masking
themselves as the ones who voted for Trump. You'd even be forgiven for thinking the palm-colored population did not vote for Trump and the election was rigged, you know. And the funniest thing is, this is a red state, and it's not only the red state. Most of them like to hide behind the idea of I'm not political, I didn't vote this and that, you know. And also, black people warned of this. Most of them would come, especially if they're your co-workers, colleagues, things like that. Even if they voted for Trump, and some of the men were actually even saying, wait a minute, even if they voted for Trump, they wouldn't openly admit that they voted for Trump. So you'd be forgiven for thinking all the palm-colored people voted for the other way, you know. And statistics show differently, you know. And even there are men, the Republicans who voted for, you know, the Republican Party and for Trump majorly. Most of them would come on TikTok and brag about how when they go on dates with women who are supporting the Democratic Party, they would either deny that they're political or deny that they voted, and in real sense they know that they voted and they voted Trump. And this is why I'm saying this big statement that right now you'd be forgiven for thinking no palm-colored person voted red. Only the statistics shows you the extent of which they did, you know.
At the end of the day, I don't think like it matters right now, because everybody knows their truth, and I feel like at this Trump is the only president who knows how to serve it like it is. You vote for what you want and you get exactly what you voted for, you know. So guys, I feel like it's a long way to 4 years ending, and the drama has only begun. This is just the 3rd month, and a lot has already happened. Nebraska, we're waiting to see what will become of the state. We're waiting to see where all this goes, and we're waiting for another Fafo.
Because there was also another rumor that all these farmlands, once they become broke and whatnot, someone will buy it.
Of course, there's always somebody waiting to profit from chaos, you know. Anyway, guys, let us know what you think about this episode in the comment section. We really would appreciate to read your thoughts and comments, Other than that, we want to thank you so much for watching and always joining our episode and sharing them. Consider subscribing if it's your first time here. Let's catch you on the next episode.